igniting curiosity across depots, command centers, and beyond. Welcome to your weekly Depot AI Brief, where emerging AI meets mission-ready insights.
Glad to be here as always.
Yeah, welcome to episode 20, titled Weekly AI Updates for Army Depot Operations. Today we're breaking down exactly how these AI updates impact our four core roles, from the shop floor to the executive suite. And we'll wrap up with key highlights and insights on the commercial tools flashing on our industry radar.
Right, but before we get to the actual shop floor, we really need to establish the ground rules for how you, the listener, can actually operate.
Oh, absolutely, the guardrails.
Exactly. Every operational capability we dive into today is anchored strictly in our authorized Big Four tools. So that's GenAI.mil, Ask Sage, Army Vantage, and Copilot. And, these operate securely within the DoD or Department of Defense IL5 environment.
Right, and just as a reminder, that Impact Level 5 designation, that means it is a heavily fortified, ring-fenced ecosystem authorized for CUI, or Controlled Unclassified Information.
Which is huge, because it means if you are on the floor, turning a wrench, your sensitive readiness data isn't bleeding out into the public internet. We're keeping it localized. Localized and secure. Which actually brings us perfectly to our first role, the artisan, the mechanic.
Yeah, the folks doing the heavy lifting.
Right. So if you're out there getting your hands dirty, the biggest news affecting your future toolkit is the DoD's push for nearly $30 billion to modernize its AI supercomputing arsenal by fiscal year 2027.
$30 billion. It's a massive number.
It is. But let's pause on that massive price tag for a second. Why does a mechanic on the shop floor care about a supercomputer sitting in some server farm?
Well, it all comes down to latency and data sovereignty. When we talk about compute capacity, we're talking about the physical GPUs, or graphics processing units, that do the massive mathematical heavy lifting to run these models.
The actual brain power.
Right. If you are a mechanic in a depot, you cannot rely on a cloud connection to a commercial server halfway across the country. I mean, first of all, it violates security protocols, obviously.
And second, if the network drops, your diagnostic tools just go dark. So localized defense compute capacity means we put that horsepower close to you, securely. You can run complex predictive maintenance diagnostics directly on a tablet, completely disconnected from unapproved public networks.
That makes total sense. So if compute power is the bottleneck, then fixing that localized infrastructure is what actually unlocks, like, software partnerships for the military.
Exactly where this is heading.
Because we're seeing news about Virtualytics partnering with OpenAI to target public sector analytics. They're trying to merge frontier models with decision support software. But obviously, and I really want to stress this, you can't just boot up a commercial version of ChatGPT while you're fixing a Black Hawk transmission.
No, you absolutely cannot do that. But you can use GenAI.mil to achieve the exact same operational advantage.
Okay, let's unpack this. Using AI on the floor is like having a digital diagnostic manual that talks back, but you still need the mechanic's ear to know if the engine sounds right.
Oh, 100%. Virtualytics focuses on this concept of explainable analytics. If you are a mechanic, you don't just want a magic box that says, replace the actuator. You need to know why.
Right, show your work.
Yeah, and GenAI.mil acts as that explainable layer within our IL5 boundaries. It analyzes historical repair data, cross-references dense technical manuals, and shows you the mathematical breadcrumbs of why it thinks a specific component is failing.
So it narrows down the likely causes so you spend less time digging through paper manuals.
Exactly. More time fixing the aircraft.
But wait, if we are networking industrial test sets to AI, aren't we creating a giant digital target? How does a mechanic ensure safety against cyber threats, like making sure they aren't opening a back door?
What's fascinating here is the evolution of AI in cyber conflicts. I mean, AI is incredibly fast at scanning millions of lines of network traffic for anomalies. It can find a digital weak spot in a connected test set almost instantly.
Which is terrifying, honestly.
Yeah, it is. But cyber leaders are adamant that human review remains non-negotiable. The AI flags the anomaly. Maybe it notices your diagnostic tablet is pinging an unusual IP address. But the human operator decides if they unplug the machine or let the diagnostic test finish.
So it's still completely dependent on human judgment, which is probably why the Naval Postgraduate School just launched a brand new AI degree pathway specifically for sailors and Marines.
Yeah, the information warfare folks.
Right. So if you are working in a depot, you should expect this exact type of structured operator training. Depot shops will need this. You can't just be handed an AI assistant without knowing how it thinks.
The human mechanic is the ultimate safeguard. You really need to be trained on its limitations.
Totally. Now, it's great that the mechanic can diagnose a fault on the floor, but every time they turn that wrench, they generate a massive data trail.
Oh, mountains of data.
And that data dumps right onto the desk of our next role, the analyst. From turning physical wrenches to wrestling with the massive amounts of data generated by those repairs. If you're an analyst listening right now, you know exactly what it feels like to drown in maintenance records, work orders, and FOIA or Freedom of Information Act pipelines.
It's a backlog nightmare. The sheer volume of data from a single repair cycle is just staggering. This is why agencies are aggressively looking at automation to manage the massive growth in digital records.
Like the Idaho National Laboratory, right? They're moving from basic AI experimentation to what they're calling Agentic AI workflows.
Yes, and that term is really important, agentic workflows.
So how does that differ from just, asking a chatbot a question?
Well, traditional AI is reactive. It waits for your prompt. And agentic AI is proactive. You give it high-level goal, like audit this month's transmission repair logs. The agent breaks that down. It securely queries the database via an API or application programming interface. It parses the text locally using an LLM or large language model. Yeah, and then it formats a summary report and flags anomalies. It does all of this multi-step heavy lifting for analysts.
That's incredible. And for analysts operating in our secure environment, this is where Ask Sage comes in. An analyst can use Ask Sage to mimic this, right? Routing tasks, summarizing vast maintenance data, assembling draft reports securely, instead of relying on manual Excel crunching.
Exactly, without the data ever crossing the public internet.
But let me push back here for a second. Wait, if the AI is drafting readiness reports for the OIB, or Organic Industrial Base, aren't we risking hallucinations making their way up the chain of command?
That is a very real concern, and it's why you mitigate it by adopting a strict human-in-the-loop protocol. If we connect this to the bigger picture, look at the Library of Congress Fix-It Plus program as the perfect countermodel.
Oh, the Public Broadcasting Digitization Project.
Right. They use AI-generated transcripts first because the software handles scale beautifully, but they rely on volunteer human review before publishing anything to unlock that public broadcasting history.
So the AI acts as a brute force drafter, but the human is the final editor.
Precisely. Analysts must use this exact human-in-the-loop model for document processing. Let Ask Sage do the heavy lifting, but human analysts validate the output.
That makes a lot of sense. And that transition from data crunching to actual workflow management brings us to the folks caught right in the middle, the supervisor. Data is only as effective as the teams managing it, which means supervisors and team leads have to balance efficiency with strict red tape.
It's a really tough spot to be in.
It really is. And if we return to the Idaho National Lab's push into practical agentic workflows, supervisors can use this as a cue to shift clerical burdens off their teams, freeing up time for actual production and exception handling.
Exactly. I mean, think about facilities like CCAD, the Corpus Christi Army Depot.
Right.
Supervisors there can use Copilot to pilot bounded, authorized workflows for rostering, scheduling, and admin follow-ups.
But bounded is the key word there.
Yes, meaning the AI operates within strict guardrails. You accelerate the busy work, but you remain firmly in charge of the final approval.
Which sounds incredibly efficient, but we also have to look at the USDA, or United States Department of Agriculture, watchdog report. They found the agency moved much faster on AI use than on governance controls.
It's the classic technology trap.
So what does this all mean? It sounds like the message to first-line leaders is, don't let your excitement for productivity outrun your data controls.
I completely agree. It ties back to the Naval Postgraduate School's structured AI education we talked about. Supervisors must demand deliberate training plans before expecting their personnel to use AI responsibly in production work.
You have to know the rules of the road before you drive the car.
Exactly. Governance has to lead adoption.
And the decisions made by supervisors eventually roll up to the boardroom. Which shifts us to our final core role, the executive. The commander steering the ship. The strategic landscape right now is, frankly, chaotic. We are watching the White House postponing the signing of an AI executive order.
Right, which delays a voluntary framework for government visibility into advanced models.
Exactly. And the anticipated order was supposed to give the NSA, the National Security Agency, a formalized role in testing frontier models for national security.
It leaves things very murky at the top.
And while that's delayed, you have an ongoing divided appeals court dispute between the Pentagon and the AI company Anthropic over national security risk assertions.
It's a huge mess. A CIA, or Central Intelligence Agency, official recently commented that advanced models bring the government to a reflection point. We are moving from experimentation to incredibly hard decisions about trust.
So tie this together for me. How does this impact an executive?
Well, connect this back to the $30 billion DoD supercomputing request. Commanders across AMCOM, the Aviation and Missile Command, they must use Army Vantage to track how compute availability directly impacts budget ROI or return on investment.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, they use Army Vantage to track vendor risk and map out the scaling of approved AI workloads across their commands.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. You've got this tension between the Pentagon's massive $30 billion infrastructure request and this tangled legal and governance web. How does an executive plan for the future when the rules of the game are currently tied up in court?
This raises an important question. Do you wait for the dust to settle, or do you build now? The reality is that executives must focus on building secure, approved pathways, like aisle 5 today.
So you pour the concrete now.
Exactly, so that when the governance dust finally settles, the infrastructure is already in place.
I love that. Build the foundation first. All right, well, shifting from the secure DoD environment to the horizon of commercial tech to see what's coming next. As we shift to the industry radar, a quick reminder. These are home lab or industry awareness tools only, and they are not currently authorized for CUI or depot networks.
Good reminder.
Always have to say it. First up on the radar, Google's real-time AI security trade-offs. Commercial firms are shipping incredibly fast, but security is lagging.
Yeah, they're patching vulnerabilities in real time after the product is already out there. It's a very different incentive structure than the DoD.
And speaking of shipping fast, Google just showed off this wild anything-to-anything multimodal model that transforms inputs across entirely different media types. Text, video, audio to code.
The potential there is wild.
Right. I was marveling at the multimodal models, noting the incredible promise for future simulation and training.
It's promising, but I have to ground it with a security warning. We are seeing hackers exploiting chatbot personalities rather than just prompt content.
Wait, exploiting a personality?
Yeah, by manipulating the underlying system instructions that tell the AI how to behave, attackers create a whole new attack surface. It bypasses traditional security filters because they're looking for malicious code, not a malicious attitude. The trust problem with commercial AI is only getting more complicated.
That is insane. And it ties into our final radar piece, AI reconstructing the voices of dead pilots from cockpit audio spectrograms for accident investigations.
It analyzes the visual graph of the sound frequency and reverse engineers the audio perfectly.
I'm just marveling at the voice reconstruction. The forensic capability is amazing, but also completely terrifying for authenticity.
It really is.
Which brings me to a final thought for everyone listening. Think about those hackers targeting chatbot personalities. If a machine's attitude is now a vulnerability, how will we need to train our soldiers to interrogate the behavior of their own software in the future?
That's the real challenge. If I could sum it all up. From multi-billion-dollar compute infrastructure down to the mechanics diagnostic tablet, the future of depot readiness relies on keeping humans firmly in the loop of every AI workflow.
Thanks for joining us. Whether you're turning wrenches in the hangars or crunching numbers for the command team, you are the engine that keeps Army aviation ready. Stay safe, stay innovative, and we'll see you on the next Depot AI Brief.